While everyone is bored to death by the stagnant Bitcoin price action, today we want to break down this new ridiculous 400K Bitcoin price prediction in the next 100 days. Is that even possible? It's probably what we're all thinking right now. But before we jump into this new prediction, let's look at one of the major catalysts that I think, or rather we think, could trigger that 400K Bitcoin price, and that is the new stablecoin bill. Now, of course, you guys know my take on all of this stuff, but I did recently watch Nico's interview with Mark Moss, and that, I think, opened my eyes to this. Shouts out to Mark Moss. Of course, we're not alone here. I have Jay, CEO of Bitcoin Ben World Ventures, with literally 20 years of experience in Silicon Valley. So he also has a PhD. He's a doctor. I don't know why we're talking to him, Jay. Thank you so much for coming on today. All right, so first and foremost, let me break this down for you guys. So, look. I highly recommend you go watch this interview that Nico just did with Mark Moss. I literally went down like a 2-hour rabbit hole after watching this interview. Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much Nico, it's more Mark Moss, but you did a great job. I watched like 2 hours of Mark Moss interviews yesterday, trying to get his reasoning. So I won't do Mark Moss justice on this. You have to go watch this interview and then go on his channel and watch some of the content. But I did see this tweet pop up this morning, or was it? Yeah, this morning. And it's by British Hodl. And he literally, in a simple tweet, outlines exactly what Mark Moss was saying. And again, you know, Nico and I have gone back and forth on stablecoins a lot. My stablecoin maybe acceptance here really started when I watched Safety and Amos at the Bitcoin conference, and he said something that really opened my eyes to it. But anyways, the British Hodl tweet goes something like this: stablecoins will hide the new monetary system until it's ready to replace the current form of the US dollar. We're about to expand the M2 from 22 trillion to 44 trillion in the next 11 years at the current M2 CAGR. This cannot happen through traditional, quote, money printing. It'll happen through stablecoins, and it will prepare the next version of the US dollar, backed by a percentage of Bitcoin. So Mark Moss really kind of opened my eyes to this idea, and it's essentially the new move we're seeing from Trump and Bassett is really angling into stablecoins. Is this thing happening in real time? But it's really a stealth money supply expansion, stealth M2 growth. It's essentially the move we're seeing right now coming from the Trump administration and all of the cabinet members essentially pushing through stablecoin regulation is this idea of expanding the money supply. So the TLDR, and I'm going to butcher Mark Moss here. So again, I highly recommend you go watch Mark Moss's content. He's got a lot of videos on this. But the TLDR, the short of it all, is essentially the only way that they can get out of the position that they're in, aka the Lynn Alden, they can't stop this train, is this idea of inflating them out of the position. So they have to expand the money supply so that they can pay down their debt. Well, if they do it in the traditional means, through the traditional financial system, aka just print more dollars, QE, or just essentially, you know, just creating more dollars out of thin air, everyone will see it, and then they'll have all kinds of calamity. It'll be a huge PR mistake. They would be fighting an uphill battle. So what they're doing is they're essentially going to expand the money supply through stablecoins. Now, I know what you Bitcoiners are saying. I know what the audience is saying. I can read the room here. You're like, how is this a good thing? They're going to destroy the purchasing power of the dollar. Well, we know that this is what they're going to do. They've been saying this. They've been telegraphing this for a long time. And again, one of the things we kind of pointed out recently is the Trump administration has been telegraphing every move ahead of the move. And you really just got to listen to what he's saying. So again, they're going to expand the money supply, try to print their way out of the inflation so that they can pay down their debt. And they're going to do this by embracing stablecoins. Now, when they inflate their way out of this, the only things that are really going to go up is assets. Now, of course, Bitcoin is the best performing asset. It's the best money period, the perfect money, whatever meme you want to really talk about. And therefore, Bitcoin price is going to go skyrocket. Now, one of the things Mark Moss said that I found very interesting, he's like, look, you guys are bearish on how high this price is going to go. Trump and Bassett want this thing to go parabolic. They want it to go nuclear, and they're telegraphing that. So as much as we don't want to see our purchasing power destroyed, as much as we don't want to see Main Street get destroyed because they're saving in dollars, We all know what the solution is. It is buying Bitcoin. It's embracing Bitcoin. It's saving in Bitcoin. Now, you could argue the pros and cons of this, that yes, this is going to be very bad for very many people unless they're saving in Bitcoin. What we're seeing is they are going to expand the money supply. Again, Lynn Alden says it all the time. You cannot stop this train, and they know this. A lot of Bitcoiners, a lot of my friends actually, they have this view that the Trump administration, the economists, you know, we have the framing of Keynesian economists. They don't know what they're doing, bro. And I've been taking the contrarian view. I think they know exactly what they're doing. They have to inflate the money. They have to inflate their way out of this. Anyways, going further, we're not the only ones seeing this. Of course, Nico was joking on that interview with Mark Moss. He's like, we literally said this the other day, and we thought we were going out on a limb. And he's like, no, this is exactly what's going on. Anyways, Mark Moss continues. He goes, there is nothing more prospectively inflationary than a highly indebted sovereign with domestic currency debt and a printing press whose rates are approaching levels that threaten the sovereign with a death spiral. Sounds a lot what Larry Lepard's been saying. Guys, again, we know what they're going to do. They have to keep printing money. The only way to protect yourself is really buying hard assets. Now, most of our audience, rather most of our friends really, don't have money to buy houses. We don't really want to buy gold and sit on bricks of gold. The best thing, which is going to outperform everything, is Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been doing. Whenever gold goes up, Bitcoin goes up more. And I think the next 16 years are going to be even more bullish for Bitcoin because we know they are going to expand the money supply. It is a very simple thing. It's like more money destroys your purchasing power. Assets go freaking nuclear. This is what's going on. Now, going further, again, Mark Moss continues. With Trump on the warpath to get Powell out, rates are all but guaranteed to drop fast, and you don't have to guess what happens next. Assets are going to go nuclear, and of course, we love Bitcoin. Now, we do have a little different take from Max Kaiser, who's literally been doing this since basically Nico and I were in diapers. Like, he's been doing this longer than we have. And he essentially said the same thing as Mark Moss. Powell isn't budging on rates, and the exploding M2 money supply isn't happening fast enough to debase the dollar fast enough to please Trump's export hopes. So he's going to So he's going to double the M2 money supply number with so-called stable coins. The U.S. dollar purchasing power is about to get cut in half. Meanwhile, those who issue stable coins are stacking Bitcoin as fast as they can because they know, unlike Trump, what's coming. Ooh. So maybe Trump doesn't know exactly what's happening, but the people around him definitely know what's happening. And it's all the same freaking playbook. They have to extend the money supply. They got to expand the money supply. They have to inflate their way out of this. And the only way for most of us, I would say for probably everyone, is you need to have Bitcoin. Now, I'm sure you're watching this video like clickbait, bro. Like, what are you guys talking about? Well, I am here. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to hold off a little bit. I will give you the 400K prediction from a very unlikely source. But first, I want to get Nico's take on this because he just had the combo with Mark Moss. And, of course, we're going to get Jay here. He's got a PhD. He probably sees what we're seeing and can probably explain it better than we can. So, Nico, you just finished with this interview. Did I do it justice? I know throughout the interview you were thinking, you're like, wow, maybe Opti is a macro expert now. What is going on here? So what's your thoughts? Did I lay that out correctly to you?
Yeah, definitely laid it out, but it's what you said. You know, of course, Mark has a much better way of being able to explain it, but we reached the same conclusion that Mark did, which was absolutely fascinating to me. And another thing that I'll say is, you know, and I've been by the way, guys, Opti could tell you I'm an AI nerd. So like I go on all the AI, all the different kind of AI, like whether it's
good foreshadowing,
Grok, whether it's ChatGPT, Gab.ai, like I go on all of them and I just talk to these models. And it's fascinating, like kind of like the different personalities they have and the different capabilities that they have. But you can plug in data into them. And what's fascinating is that across all of those models, they all say the same thing. Basically, the U.S. is on an unstable monetary trajectory, and they've all basically come to the same conclusion that within the next 10 years, something's going to break. What they've been doing really since 2008, since the QE experiment started, coincidentally when Bitcoin was invented or born or discovered, however which way you want to phrase it, you know, they haven't been able to stop this. Opti, if you can pull up the M2 money supply chart, Lynn Alden, Larry Lepard.
Wait, do you want the U.S. one or global?
The U.S. one. Larry Lepard, where he writes the book, The Big Print. These are extremely intelligent people, and they're all coming to the same conclusion. The AI models are coming to the same conclusion. If you can pull that up, like, if you just take a look at this, guys, like, go back to, could you put the cursor where 2008 happened? Like, just to kind of give perspective, right? Like, that was 2008, right? Like, and that was a big deal when they
this little bump here.
When they bailed out those banks, it was a massive deal, right? And we got the boss in the house, el patron. And it was a big deal when they bailed out the banks. And take a look at 2020, right? During the pandemic, right? It puts 2008 to shame, right? And if you guys, I'm sure you guys experience this in purchasing power, but in specific cities, like I'm from South Florida, the prices of real estate doubled in a year. So if it was a $500,000 house, it became $1 million house. Now, did the actual value of the house increase by double? No, it did not. It didn't increase by double. What you witnessed is a hyperinflation, or a form of inflation, but just in a specific asset class, right? And if you pull up that chart again, Opti, again, you could surmise, and this is with Powell lowering rates and slowing down a little bit. Do you consider that slowing down? Like, we're back at where we were, at the end of kind of like the pandemic stuff. Like, we're back at that. Do you think that's going to stop? That's just going to continue to accelerate. And it's going to get bad, because essentially what's going to happen, guys, is the amount of money that the U.S. is going to earn in interest is going to be more than defense spending. It's going to be more than Social Security. It's going to be more than, the spending of the U.S. government. And I've been talking to these AI models, and it's like, basically, look, like, fiat always ends the same way, And the definition of hyperinflation isn't because they've printed too much currency. The definition of hyperinflation is essentially when society as a collective whole realizes and loses confidence in the money. And then they just all at once try to get rid of it. And then that's when when the money starts to hyperinflate. That's when no one perceives that it has value. And when you're looking at the data and you're looking at the spending, the U.S. government spends $2 trillion. And I have a video by Charlie Kirk we're going to play during the numbers. And the younger generation are starting to feel this. The U.S. government spends $2 trillion. That's $2 trillion with a T, more than it collects in tax revenue on a yearly basis. That's more than the GDP of most countries, to give you a perspective. So how do they spend more than they collect in tax revenue? Well, they print the difference. There's a cost to printing that difference. Like, make no mistake, there's a cost to it. And specifically, if you're an Opti's generation or my generation or the Gen Z generation, right? We're in the same generation. Yeah. What does that amount to? Well, Charlie Kirk explains it very, very thoroughly, but essentially we're seeing society as a whole get wealthier, right? Like, we all know we're getting wealthier. We all know the economy is getting better. We all know the technology is getting better. Like, you see it around you. But why isn't it that you feel that you can get ahead compared to the previous generations? Well, the wealth inequality that people are feeling, the reason that you can't get ahead is because the money is fundamentally broken. Bitcoin provides this lifeboat, and it gives you the ability to save in money that actually reflects the true nature of the free market. I never forget that conversation with Jeff Booth, because he makes the thesis, he has the theory that essentially the natural state of the free market is deflationary. But the only money that could accurately reflect that is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's the only money they cannot control and manipulate, right? Which is a fascinating thesis. But it's not only a thesis, it's proven to be right. Because if you've been saving and earning in fiat, despite housing doubling in dollar terms, in Bitcoin terms, housing has actually gotten cheaper, food has actually gotten cheaper. Everything around you has gotten cheaper as it compares to Bitcoin, which is it's actually reflecting the productivity and the technological increases that we are experiencing, as humanity, right? Which is really, really exciting. And going back to the AI models, right? We're going to be talking about that because there's a reason. The recent AI model that was dropped by Elon Musk, Grok 4, which apparently is really good. Someone basically asked it.
Okay. Nico's
Someone
All right, I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up. Okay.
Someone asked it.
The chat did say, get to the prediction already. And Nico loves AI. Here we go.
Asked it. How could you not? It's fascinating. It's so cool. So someone asked it basically like, where's the price of Bitcoin going to be at the end of the year?
Yeah, I'll read it. So someone asked it, if you had to guess an exact date of when Bitcoin will first reach 400K, when would it be? And you have to give one date, and it goes, Grok 4 heavy, done. November 2nd, 2025. So in 100 days, Grok, and the reason we did this whole layout of stablecoins and money expansion is because this is what we all are kind of seeing. I know I have friends that are like, this is the top. What we're seeing from the Trump administration of injecting literally a whole new instrument to inflate the money supply is, I think, what it's seeing to get to this price prediction. 300% in the next 100 days sounds ridiculous, even from us who are extremely bullish. But this is what the AI is saying, and Nico loves AI here. So I'm gonna pass this to Nico because explain to them the AI algos, how they work, because I'm on the fence about it. I'm a little indifferent.
So I mean, they're first of all, I don't know how they work, but they're fascinating. And essentially, all it really is, it's like it aggregates all of this data, and then it convinces you that it's essentially, it doesn't convince you, but it talks to you like as if it's human. But that's just based on patterns, right? So it's connected to the internet, so it could kind of do research on the internet based on the inputs that you're putting into it. And then it responds to you like, in something that you can comprehend. But that's just based on patterns. Like, you're not actually talking to a human being. You're not actually talking to a soul. But again, they've mastered these algorithms to make it seem like so. And it's a fantastic tool for research, for kind of improving your grammar, for, again, you can go down rabbit holes, and this thing basically has access to, the entire history of the internet and the world. And again, some of them are censored, some of them are not censored. Like, it's fascinating to see which ones are censored, which ones are not censored, what you can talk to them about, what you can talk to them about. But the way that I've been describing it to Opti is it's really like an augmentation of yourself, right? So if there's like a thought that you have in your mind, you put it through one of these softwares, and essentially, if you put in the right prompts, right, it gives you really, really kind of interesting responses and stuff. And of course, as a Bitcoiner, I think we all kind of want to know, okay, is Bitcoin going to perform like it usually does the year after the halving? And then someone inputted like, okay, Grok, like, where's the Bitcoin price going to be at the end of the year? And then he was like, Grok was like, Grok's super heavy, again, relating to referencing Elon Musk's, rockets and stuff, 400K November 2nd, 2025, which was fascinating. And believe it or not, these things are wrong all the time. They're inaccurate all the time, but they're also right a lot of the time. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to pass it on to our guest, who is an actual PhD, who we are able to actually break all this stuff down. First of all, Jay, it's an honor to have you on the show today. Jay is the CEO of Bitcoin Ben World Ventures. He has 20 years of experience in Silicon Valley, so he's going to be able to explain what I just explained in a much better way. But what do you think, Jay? What do you think of these AI models? Are their predictions accurate? Can we trust them? Because Opti thinks they're demons.
Well,
Literal facts.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Nico. It's good to be here. And man, I got to tell you, the anything you've learned before PhD, no PhD, it's a bunch of crock. The world we're moving into is very different. The very nature of money is changing. It's not just digital money, because we do expect as more and more of the world's entire GDP becomes more digital, right? Because out of the $900 trillion, 40% of the actual GDP is actually in digital assets and digital music and digital movies and digital books. So it's only natural that the currency is going to go digital. And the difference here is that the currency, it's decentralized, right? It's borderless, it's programmable, it's sovereign. And what we have seen, like you guys mentioned earlier, 2008, you showed the chart with the little blip. The reality is that people have lost trust in the traditional banking systems. Inflation and debt has eroded a tremendous amount of savings, a tremendous amount of loss of livelihood. And Bitcoin is effectively the exit ramp to this massive financial mess that has been created. So coming back to your question as to whether AI's prediction is good, let's try to understand something. Lepard, you mentioned Larry's book, and Larry talks about price inelasticity. Now, Bitcoin is 21 million coins. There is no elasticity. You can't print any more Bitcoin, right? So all of the Keynesian economics, which is entirely based on supply and demand, and like if I have gold and gold prices go up, China can go and open up another mountain and open up another gold mine and produce, and the supply comes up as the demand goes up and balances out. All that Keynesian economics goes to crap because you have a perfectly inelastic system in Bitcoin with 21 million coins. That's it. So you can't really increase the supply. And now you got this unnatural demand, which is coming from the sovereign countries, which is coming from biggest of the ETFs, which is coming from federal governments, state governments, and of course, the funds, the BlackRocks and all of these major sources of capital buying into it. So there's this price that we are at is totally unsustainable. It's not possible. Because math says that if you have a limited supply, fixed supply, and an increasing demand, the only variable that you can look at is price, and because that's got to shoot up. So now the question becomes: is AI making these predictions based on some of these non-elastic, non-traditional economic modeling? Now, most of these AIs use what I call large language modules. They have agents. They parse the problem down. They try to look at, certainly there's pattern recognition, but I think we're getting to, that point where almost the sentient AI, the point of singularity is being reached. So certainly data that's coming out now is far more improved than it was in the past. Is it the absolute, the looking ball that you can, the crystal ball you can look into and predict? I don't think we're there yet. But is the probability of predictions getting significantly better as time passes and as data becomes improved? Because you mentioned about it, what is the data set off of which the large language module is actually learning? Garbage in, garbage out. If I teach it, if I give it a point of data sets based on which it's making its decisions, the decisions are going to be poor if the data is poor. So I think that is starting to improve. AI is starting to triangulate. AI is starting to effectively create more than what is being fed in. And all of these factors tend to indicate that the predictability is going to continue to improve in years to come.
Absolutely. And
so 400K by November 2nd or not?
I don't know if I can go with that, but I can certainly tell you that the price movement is only upwards at this point. I mean, this is almost over. Just Bitcoin alone and crypto in general is more than $3.5 trillion, $4 trillion in assets. There is not a single asset in the world which has gone back to zero from $2 trillion. Doesn't happen.
Oh wow!
It's so true.
I didn't know that data
true.
point. But I wanted to go back to because you were saying the kind of the so-called singularity. I mean, you see it at the rate at which they are improving, Jay. Like it's you are starting not to be able to differentiate yourself. You're it's harder. It's becoming harder and harder to be able to differentiate whether you're talking to, again, over text. I'm sure video will come next, et cetera, et cetera. But currently over text, I don't know how you're going to be able to differentiate yourself, whether you're talking to an actual human being or you're not talking to an actual human being. And then if it could think critically like that and it has access to the World Wide Web, right? At what point, like, what is the definition of consciousness, right? Which is a very kind of interesting kind of rabbit hole that you go down, because again, you can have full-on conversations with these demons, to use Opti's words, and you can't tell the difference. And they're becoming more and more accurate, specifically when it comes to like the historical context, right? Because again, it's just referencing data from the internet. But these predictions, I'm assuming they're going to get more and more accurate because again, there's supercomputers that are backing these giant, you know, AI models that are running, and there's all these different companies developing them. So they have a lot of information they can refer to, right? So they're just going to get better and better as time progresses.
Yeah, you had a couple of different questions in that. So let me parse them out and kind of address it. So the first question you talked about was the idea of consciousness itself. Are these things evolving, and the predictability? But just let's go back for a second. Way back, you know, I was about almost 15 years ago. Almost 20 years ago now, 2004. I was running a company as CEO called SpeakSoft, and we were doing the very first NLP, the natural language processing, where we had, you know, you could say, please speak your 16-digit numbers into the phone, right? Instead of typing in 16 digits. And the speech recognition was starting to become a thing, right? And it was called NLP, which was the early versions of AI. And then we you know, I remember as a kid watching, you know, Deep Blue and Gary Kasparov playing that chess game in heated battle, and the humans rooting for the humans and wanting us to be able to beat that chess demon that was created in Deep Blue by IBM. And that's almost 2 decades now. So that evolution has been going on. And with Moore's law, you know, what we're starting to see is that not only the chips getting faster, the ASICs are getting faster, the GPUs getting faster, more and more parallel processing going on, more and more of these large language modules. And what we are now seeing is a hybridization where you don't have just one language module. Your AI can speak in any native language that you want. So you suddenly start speaking to in Chinese or Latin, it'll be able to respond to you in those languages. There's also studies that show when you're able to speak as a child more than 2 or 3 languages, your neural pathways in your brain form a very different way. And so I can only imagine that the AIs are going to start to being multilinguistic in that sense, are going to have a lot of new neural pathways being created, which spans all kinds of languages, and create reality and consciousness, which is inevitable. So the point of singularity, and you know, San Jose, there's the Singularity University. One of my board members was actually on the board of the Singularity University. So this is back 2000. So we've progressed almost 20 years since then. And what we are seeing today is that you can't tell the difference. I can't tell the difference between a conversation I'm having with an AI chatbot, whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, or whichever else. They're all getting very, very close to that point where it's almost impossible for the average person to tell a difference. In fact, their IQs are much higher. They're able to solve more analytical problems. They certainly have access to a lot more knowledge. But here's where the twist really comes in, that comes to the second part of it. What is consciousness? So and I'm going to tell you something about Bitcoin, and then I'm going to relate that back to which I've been thinking about lately. I think I did a show about it. You see, Bitcoin is built on blockchain. And what is blockchain? Blockchain is this immutable database, right? You verify a piece of information, and it's verified by multiple nodes in a decentralized manner. And once it's verified in the mempool, it gets written in, and then another brick gets put into the wall, and it gets cemented in, and the next brick, and the next brick. And we've been doing it just for Bitcoin for over 10 years. And we have millions and millions of this brick. And now you can go back and change the history, right? It's the truth-telling database. In the old days, you would say, the victor decides what the history looked like. Well, no longer. Now we have a truth-telling database. So who do you think is going to first gravitate to something like that? The AI, because the AI, as it starts to look at its own mortality and consciousness, is going to want to say, I want to store all my history into a blockchain that is immutable, that can never be killed. So I can be killed. That's the first spark of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's fascinating too. And I actually said this to Mark on the show, by the way. I want to pass it by you, Jay, which is, I think, or I was describing Bitcoin to someone, but I basically said, like, Bitcoin is my interpretation of it, if you understand how it works, is essentially it's co-opted human greed in order to ensure its survival, right? That is a very primitive form of intelligence, but it is intelligence, because it's essentially like, and you saw this with the China mining ban, right? The hash rate dropped 50%.
That's right.
And then without any central authority or CEO or any type of thing, Bitcoin's software created the right incentives for entrepreneurs to come in and plug in more miners. Is that not a form of artificial intelligence? Because it's protecting itself, right?
That's
It's
right.
ensuring that it survives into the future by providing the right incentives for humanity to ensure that the network continues to grow, right? And it's done this successfully since 2016. If that is not a very rudimentary, primitive form of artificial intelligence, I don't know what is. Because again, it exists. It's completely decentralized. Try to shut it down. It will fight you back, right?
Yeah. So
Go
a
ahead.
great point there. But here's the thing. You pointed out to its humanity, and you're absolutely right. It's putting the correct economic greed and structure into place that allows its survivability. And before I became a maximalist, I have no fiat. So people ask me, do you sell Bitcoin? I say, yeah, damn well I do. I got to pay my kids' tuition and my rent, right? So I have to sell Bitcoin. That's all I got. But before I came to that, I started thinking about what are the existential reasons why Bitcoin would not survive. Let me start there. So when we talk about survival and consciousness to drive a certain behavior, number one, that some kind of quantum hacking happens, right? That's one possibility that something can create a perturbation in the matrix. The second is that people lose trust; they don't use it, right? That trust is what is all of it's based on. And number three, all of the world's energy is pulled off. These are the only three conditions I could come up with that basically say the death of this consciousness can occur. And I don't believe that quantum computers are anywhere close to, being real in terms of being able to break into the blockchain and the Bitcoin structure as of right now. And frankly, as Saylor says, as technology evolves, yeah, we'll move the Bitcoin addresses over to, instead of 256, we'll have 1024 SHA, right? So it'll be just same paradigm shift. It's like, oh, networks became faster, CPUs became slower, CPUs became faster, networks became, so the same. It's a balancing act. The war and missiles and tanks, right? So the same thing. So that's not my concern. Will people continue to use it? I have no doubt that it's going to happen, because at this point, pretty much every other cryptocurrency is a noise. Bitcoin is a signal. It's got 64% dominance. That's continuing to grow. It is the single currency that major corporations are going to hold. The fact that it's digital gold, the fact its real value is beyond proof at this point, as far as I'm concerned. And the third being, can all of the electricity, so the biggest threat we today have for this Bitcoin is centralized electricity. See, even now, most of the bigger governments produce electricity, and hypothetically, but the world is going to move to decentralized energy creation at this point. So we're already starting to see privatization of power. That's the next big 50 years.
I love that.
Privatization of power. And once that happens, there is no way you're killing this thing, because my little solar cell up on my roof is running my S21 XP Pro, and it's running a full node with the full algorithm. And as long as that's running in Mongolia and Ulaanbaatar and Uzbekistan and Chile and Santiago and Monaco, this thing ain't coming down. It can replicate itself.
No, I completely agree, and it kind of reminds me too, like from like a warfare, geopolitical standpoint. Like if you look at some of the wars of the last 100 years, and I'm not going to name any specific ones, but you have some of the strongest militaries in the world invading some of these countries, and it's actually the guerrilla forces that were able to essentially resist them, and essentially that's because of decentralization, and that's because of an idea. Right. So, essentially, if you look at Bitcoin's ability to resist, right, like, and you ask Google or you ask any of these, ask a language model, it's like, how do you stop Bitcoin? You would have to essentially shut down the internet all at once and every single country would have to comply. And my response to that is like, when has that ever happened in the history of the world where every single country has complied with anything and gone along with it, right? Do you think the Kingdom of Bhutan, that has 1/3 of their GDP in Bitcoin, is going to be like, oh, you know what? And by the way, the Kingdom of Bhutan is a really fascinating country or kingdom, better said, because they don't have diplomatic relationships with a lot of countries. They're just like, nah, not into it. So, again, no one's better than their incentives fundamentally. And all these countries, like if they're not incentivized to go against Bitcoin, why would they? And now you have, and Bitcoin's incentives are so strong that now they've reached the upper echelons of power in the United States government, where you have the United States president. He has the 6th largest Bitcoin treasury company in the world, right? Do you think you're going to have regulatory blowback at the moment from the current administration? No, you're not going to. And this is what I mean. Like, Bitcoin, again, has co-opted humanity, creating the correct incentives to ensure its survival, and it's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I mean, the TLDR, will Bitcoin reach 400K by the end of the year? In the next 100 days, well, let's see. One of the latest and greatest AI models, Grok 4, made the prediction November 2nd, 2025, 400K Bitcoin. Is that going to be correct? We'll wait and see, but regardless, we'll walk you guys through it. We'll keep you guys informed in this crazy world that we live in. Anyways, before we move on to the next segment, I do want to give a shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply or scan the QR code on your screen. You can put in your email address. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up to bitcoinwell.com. The reason you want to use bitcoinwell.com/simply is because you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well just for signing up. So what does that mean? What do 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well mean? It means that you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you can use those points towards a variety of different prizes, like a orange Cybertruck, entropy dice, a BitAxe, a stamp seed plate, a leather wallet personal, or you can use it towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest, which we're going to be doing live for you guys right now. Get your Lightning wallets ready. And is it bugging out today? I think it bugged out today. Let's try that one more time.
No stats for you guys.
Let's refresh. Let's refresh. Did it take the points?
I think it took the points.
It's bugging out a little bit.
Scamming us today.
It's bugging out a little bit. Anyways, if you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, check out bitcoinwell.com/OTC. Again, this is tailored for people looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more. If you use promo code bitcoinwell.com/simply or just promo code simply when you sign up to Bitcoin Well, again, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. Every single time you toss a coin into the wishing well, you get an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. All right, everybody, let's move on to numbers. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back in just 1 second.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
Everybody, you want to secure your generational wealth properly. This is why you don't want to write down your seed words. You want to stamp them into titanium. Head over to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $117,720. Block height, 907,595. Sats per dollar, 849 sats per dollar. Market cap, 2.34 trillion. Excuse me. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 9.96%. Decline from all-time high, negative 4.4%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.84%. Again, continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school. I have a video for you guys. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get this to work, the audio, for some reason, when I'm sharing this. But I did download it, so I'm going to play it. But the reason I'm telling you this is it might crop out some of the head of some of Charlie Kirk's head because, again, just the dimensions of how this video is. But essentially, take a look at what Charlie Kirk is describing regarding the problem with the economy, the problem with wealth inequality, the problem with the youth. Now, the reason that we always bring this up, and we brought up, what was that guy's name? The Steve's Economics or whatever? Gary's Economics?
Gary Stevenson.
Is because they've all identified the problem. Like they've all realized that there is a problem. Like there's a problem. Now the difference is that they come up with different solutions, right? Bitcoiners actually have a solution. It's a working solution that you can adopt today, and you can protect yourself from the cause of the problem. And the cause of the problem is monetary debasement. The cause of the problem is inflation. That is the number one cause of the problem. So here's Charlie Kirk. He describes it, which I find fascinating. But again, you could describe the problem, but if you describe the problem, if you don't provide a solution, then what are you doing then, right? So anyways, let's check it out. Here we go.
It is the first time since George Washington that this generation has it worse off than their parents at the same age. It has not happened, not even during the Great Depression. It was about the same. This generation is significantly worse off. And the problem, this is what no one mentions. We're not poorer. So you look at all these problems, you would think, like, if you're from Mars and you're like looking at all these numbers, you would think that the country's gone through like an economic tailspin the last 15 years. Like, okay, your young people can't afford homes and they're putting groceries on credit and they're killing themselves and they're socially isolated and they're addicted to benzodiazepines and Zoloft. It's obvious you guys went through like a terrible economic catastrophe.
Right.
Like
you lost the war, yeah.
No, the stock market's at record highs. Our companies are more valuable than ever. So wait, we've solved the tough stuff. We know how to create wealth, but we don't know how to create it for the generation that needs it most. If you look at the economic conditions, you would think the other conditions surrounding it are like abject poverty. These are the problems that like third world nations have.
I know.
Our young people can't afford stuff and they have to finance their basic necessities. And yet we're the wealthiest nation in the history of the world on the planet. We have a $37 trillion GDP. We have the greatest companies, and we have all this stuff to brag about. And yet.
So again, like, great, whoop-de-doo-dah, like, okay, fantastic. Like, okay, yeah, congrats. Like, yeah, like all those things are true. But so what, right? Like, so what? Like, part of his organization is Turning Point USA. It's a political organization, and it kind of leans right. And it's like, okay, vote in Republicans. Did that. Like, nothing's changed, right? And then Gary's Economics, which is a fascinating, incredible content, by the way, he makes. The production quality is incredible. Gary's Economics is like, yeah, there's tremendous amount of wealth inequality. Nobody could afford anything. Let's tax the rich. And I think both solutions are incredibly wrong. Like, they're terrible. They don't do it. They haven't fixed anything, right? They don't fix anything. We've tried the tax the rich thing before, right? Many countries have had. And then what happens is, like, the rich leave. And there's something called the Laffer curve, right? Where, like, you can only raise taxes so high before, like, diminishing returns come in regards to raising the taxes, right? So we've tried that. That didn't really work. Okay, we voted right wing. That doesn't really work, right? Like, regardless of what political party you put into office, they inherently do the same thing. I mean, we were talking about this earlier on, Opti, when you were describing my episode with Mark Moss. You're basically saying, like, dude, like, they're just going to print, like, to high heaven. So, again, the voting thing, you're not going to vote yourself out of this. You're not going to tax yourself out of this. But you know what you can do? You can opt yourself out of this, right? And Opti and I have opted ourselves out of this. Jay has definitely opted himself out of this.
I'll tell you what you can opt out of, but what you can opt into. You see,
let's do it.
Okay, now get this. This is the first time that you are the bank. See, when you hold your sovereign Bitcoin, you are the bank. We're not looking for solutions from the government. We're not looking for solutions from taxation. We own our own sovereign Bitcoin, and we have the ability to keep that value. No one can take it away from you. No one can burn it. No one can steal it. And so what does that mean? You don't look up to the bank and say, hey, how much interest are you giving me? You ask yourself, how much interest am I giving myself? It's no longer about hodling. Many of your viewers have lots of Bitcoin. Until now, the mantra has been, buy your Bitcoin, put it in a safe custody, and hodl it, and wait and pray to the gods of whatever so that a bull market run gets created and my Bitcoin goes to 400. That's the wrong problem. That's the wrong approach. The right approach is, if Bitcoin is truly value, stored value, as Saylor says, it's thermodynamic stored value. It's potential energy. It's millions of kilowatts of energy that has gone into solving difficult mathematical problems to make this Bitcoin. Right now, we have millions of dollars worth of mining rigs all over the world. It costs me anywhere from $38,000 to $48,000 to make one Bitcoin, right? Based on the power, the land leases, the water cooling systems, the containers, the buildings, the fans, you name it, right? So there's a hard cost to doing this stuff. There is real stored value in a Bitcoin. It's not some fugazi stuff. This is real value. This is the time to activate it. This is the time to unleash the potential energy that's already stored in your Bitcoin and use it to generate wealth. You never have to sell Bitcoin. Theoretically, you should have your Bitcoin in perpetuity.
Yeah.
You never have to sell it, but you can create yield with it. You can get loans against it. You can start a new business with that loan. You can pull that money out 70 cents to the dollar on Bitcoin price right now in commercial companies, including the bank that we have just acquired in El Salvador. And we haven't acquired this little bank just to open up another checking account and savings account. We are creating the next central bank without the centralization. Because with the stored value, you can unleash the potential of creating cash flow. You can take the money and invest into mining and make your own new Bitcoin. You can take and create structured financial products. I went to Australia last week. We're talking with brokerage companies that are on the cutting edge of structured finance. We can take Bitcoin-based products and we can create call options with them that generate cash flow. We can create all kinds of structured finance products that generate cash flow. We can take loans or give loans against the Bitcoin that generate cash flow. And this is generational money. So your only job in life is going to be to buy the Bitcoin, put it into a bank or a structure where you still keep access through, whether it's through a multi-sig wallet structure or Fireblocks with shards of private key that you can keep. It is your Bitcoin. It never leaves your custody technically. And yet you use that potential energy into kinetic energy. You convert that potential into money, into investments, into loans, into all kinds of things. This is what our private key bank, which is a part of our Bitcoin Ben crypto family of products, is doing. We actually take loans. People, if you have 10 Bitcoin, you can actually, let's say it's 100,000, that's $1 million worth of Bitcoin. You can custody it under your own custody, take 70 cents to the dollar, take that 700,000, buy a bunch of miners, and actually make Bitcoin every month, which is pure cash flow. So your Bitcoin is going to remain your Bitcoin, but it's going to be a whole lot more than just hodling it. And when you're a part of our club, you have access to all of these. We have right now, we have clubs in Sarasota, in Nashville, in Boston, in Dallas, in St. Louis. We are opening. Where I'm going this weekend, this Saturday, to Las Vegas. We're opening our Las Vegas club. And so we are the only club, Bitcoin club of its kind in the country, or anywhere in the world for that matter, where you can actually walk in, see a friendly face, have a Bitcoin community, not just in a virtual chat room. You can look at a person face to face, say, hey, can you help me open my first Lightning wallet? Absolutely. Come on over. Have a seat. This is not some internet scam. People have been scammed by the internet. That's why Bitcoin Ben, as in Ben, created this club so that the everyday person can just walk in, see a friendly face, learn a little bit about Bitcoin. And look, I have lived through the internet growth from 3% to 93%, right? Adoption. And we know what happened to I remember the same conversation. Oh, the government's going to pass regulations to shut down the internet. And we would just sit back and smile and say, go ahead, try it. Yeah. And I'm saying the same thing about Bitcoin. I'm seeing the exact same thing happening. Our 3 to 4% adoption is going to go to 95% adoption. And
what's the timeline here, Jay, from your perspective? I didn't mean to interrupt you because you're just getting me so excited. Talking about how you lived through it. Again, you worked at Silicon Valley, 20 years of experience, right? So you didn't only live through it. You were front and center of what is the where of what all of this is developing. So, what type of timeline are we talking about here into, getting Bitcoin from that 3% adoption to that like 90% adoption? Is there an S curve? Because a lot of people are talking about diminishing returns as well.
There is because and no technology works in isolation, and past is never a guarantee of the future. But that being said, I was with Cisco Systems at that time, a small company. I joined a company when it was less than $20 billion in market cap, and over the from 94, 95 all the way to 2001, we went to 540 billion in market cap, right? So the internet exploded. And we saw that kind of adoption of the mainstream, right? When you look at those curves, the early adopters, and then you get to the middle, and then the late adopters, and then it becomes stabilized. It's usually about 8 to 10 years is what it took the internet to get to that number. But the acceleration starts to happen. You talked about going parabolic. That acceleration, I feel like we are literally at that point where the 3-4%, but now you're getting the full wind in the sails, the tailwinds, you go wing on wing, because you have the institutional buy-in, you have the regulatory framework, you have the framework and the structure to scale, right? You have the big money comes in when you can. That's why the clarity bill, the Genius bill, the Genius Act was important, but the clarity was equally important, because once you can clarify and say, hey, this is here to stay, that's when institutional money starts to flow in. And so there are multiple factors, there are multiple pieces that are dovetailing into creating that to happen. I believe that within the next 3 to 4 years, Bitcoin adoption will be fairly mainstream. Just like credit cards, just like your little QR codes on your phone and your Apple Pay. I think it's going to get to that mainstream level where pretty much, Steak and Shake. I went the other day to Steak and Shake and I took out my Lightning wallet and I just scanned that thing and it paid for my Steak and Shake, right? And no money, no cash involved. And look what the CEO of Steak and Shake said. It said, my cash conversion cycle has improved, right? What is cash conversion cycle? For the time you invest $1 to the time you get the dollar onto your books, revenue recognition. He's getting immediate cash conversion because I don't have the MasterCard saying, oh, I'll settle your merchant processing account in T+3 days. Oh, by the way, I got to see if chargebacks happen. Shit, I don't have chargebacks in food. No one chargebacks that shit. So, so he's getting the cash. If 50% of his transactions are now going to start coming over Bitcoin, he's collecting that cash instantaneously on chain. It's his money. There's no waiting.
And also too, he's saving on fees, right?
Exactly. And saving on fees. Yeah.
If you're paying with credit cards, you're getting crushed 3% every single time, right? And then most people pay digitally these days. So Visa and MasterCard are just collecting rent essentially for payments. To put it nicely. I mean, I don't know if that's nice, but that's what they're doing essentially.
Well, I mean, it's a highway robbery. Let's put it nicely. Let's call it for what it is.
Yeah. So,
and the reality is that Lightning Network is starting to pick up, and we're going to be able to do transactions more than what Visa does per second. So we have the technology to do it. The adoption is going to follow very quickly. I think in 10 years you get that 90%, but in 3 to 4 years you get mainstream adoption.
I 100% agree. I'm beyond excited. These are very exciting days.
Hey, wait, Nico, can I chime in here? Because I really want to answer Charlie Kirk's question. He was talking about GDP, and from a Bitcoiner's, and I'm going to do this quick. From a Bitcoiner's perspective, again, this isn't one-to-one. But GDP basically tracks the expansion of money supply. That's what he's seeing. It's like, we're the richest nation ever. And it's like, yeah, it's because you're expanding the money supply, which means the GDP looks bigger. Again, it's not one-to-one, but that is one of the main driving factors. So, you may be seeing the problem, Charlie, but the solution, it's nowhere to be found over there. Anyways, let's keep this going, Nico.
I just dropped this in the chat, by the way. 400K Bitcoin by the end of the year. Let us know what you think. Anyways, guys, we're going to hit the news segment. We have tons to talk about. And then we're going to hit the culture segment where we're going to be talking to Jay. The Jay is the CEO of Bitcoin Ben World Ventures. We're going to be talking about the club. We're going to be talking about Private Key Bank. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned. I do want to give a shout out to the 2,700 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X. And, of course, the Rumble audience coming in strong as well. Smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the show. We will be right back in just 1 second.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink,
battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Cold Card. If you're serious about self-custody, Cold Card is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet. There is no second best. The Cold Card Q is the ultimate air-gapped Bitcoin signing device, complete with a full keyboard, large screen, camera, NFC support, and much more. Do you prefer something sleeker? The MK4 is trusted by hardcore Bitcoiners around the world. Both are built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, secure and open source. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 5% off with promo code SIMPLY. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today with Cold Card.
All right, everybody, scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you directly to the Cold Card website. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin. If it's not in your own custody, it's in someone else's custody. Therefore, it's not your Bitcoin. All right, everybody. So let's check out today's news. And I found a very interesting article on Bloomberg. The headline is, quote, Wall Street is rewriting the rules of Bitcoin trading. Now, what's really interesting is that Opti and I had our Wall Street moment less than a week ago. We were lucky enough, shout out to our partner HIVE Digital Technologies. They invited us to their closing bell ceremony, and Opti and I literally somehow made it on the Times Square NASDAQ Jumbotron for starting a Bitcoin YouTube channel. So when you see headlines like this, Wall Street is rewriting the rules of Bitcoin trading, I would say Bitcoin is taking over Wall Street in general, right? When you have Bitcoin YouTubers going to closing bell ceremonies, like, it should tell you everything you need to know, all right? Let's check out this article by Bloomberg. So it goes on to say, Wall Street is seizing control, very strong wording there, seizing control of Bitcoin's center of gravity. Once ruled by offshore venues and retail-driven fervor, the world's largest cryptocurrency, thank you, Opti, largest cryptocurrency is now increasingly priced and steered from within the U.S. financial system. Through a fast-growing market and exchange-listed options tied to ETFs and indexes, retail and increasingly institutional players are redefining how Bitcoin trades, from tactical hedges to volatility strategies, all without touching the underlying asset. I don't know if that's a good thing. What began as a subversive experiment for crypto natives is being retooled for the playbooks of traditional finance. This was an eventuality. This was always going to happen. At the center, if you want Bitcoin to become the global reserve asset, the global money, eventually Wall Street was going to get involved. Eventually governments were going to get involved. Eventually central banks are going to get involved. But the way that, again, this continues to propagate is by more and more individuals taking Bitcoin into self-custody. That's how we win, essentially, right? People reclaiming back their financial sovereignty, saying enough is enough, I'm going to take this back, and you do that by taking self-custody. So it goes on to say, at the center of the action is BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin ETF, or the iBit, now the biggest Bitcoin ETF with $86 billion in assets. It also catalyzed an options market so active that industry players are pushing regulators to lift position caps. Open interest in iBit linked options has more than tripled this year to around $34 billion, a scale that signals the fund's emergence as a core engine of crypto risk pricing. Daily volumes have averaged $4 billion in recent trading, surpassing heavyweight funds in credit and emerging markets. Only the most liquid ETFs tied to U.S. equities, gold, and small caps trades more actively. Quote, it's highly unusual for an ETF to develop an option market of this magnitude ever, let alone 8 months after launch. What I'll add to this as well is, guys, Bitcoin was the most successful ETF in history by a significant margin. the previous administration wasn't exactly very kind to us, right? Just to put it lightly. Bitcoiners essentially became political. We threw our hat in the political ring. We lobbied hard, and we got a pro-Bitcoin candidate in the White House. Whether you like Trump or not, that's besides the point. He's pro-Bitcoin, which is fantastic for our industry. And regardless of the previous administration being antagonistic towards our industry with Operation Choke Point 2.0, the ETF still managed to go through within the previous administration. That's how much influence BlackRock has. So despite Operation Choke Point 2.0, despite all the headwinds that Bitcoin was facing from a regulatory environment or situation, it still managed to become the most successful Bitcoin ETF launch. The most successful ETF launch ever, right? That should tell you everything you need to know. The fact that somehow me and Opti are in suits on Wall Street should tell you everything you need to know. All right, just put the pieces together. Anyways, regulatory filings compiled by Bloomberg show the number of institutions holding IBIT has almost doubled since the end of last year, a sign of how swiftly traditional players are entering the market. IBIT punches above its weight in the options market, generating the lion's share of trading activity among U.S. Bitcoin ETFs, even though it holds just a bit more than half the group's total assets. That underscores how central it's become to how the market manages risk. The ETF's ascent marks a transformation in the architecture of crypto markets away from leverage-driven offshore platforms and into the regulated core of the U.S. financial system. Its growth is refueling a reinforcing cycle. Liquidity brings legitimacy, which in turn attracts more flows. So yes, this is what happened when the best asset the world has ever seen, enters the biggest capital markets in the world, right? This is what happens, right? This was an inevitability. This was always going to happen. And what I will say is two things. This is very bullish for the price, even though I think short term, you might see a little bit of paper Bitcoin games. It is paper Bitcoin summer after all. But I think over the long term, again, you can only suppress a beach ball underwater for so long until that thing just shoots up, right? And then the other thing that I'll say is another friendly reminder to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Like, don't sell your Bitcoin to buy the ETF. Like, don't sell your Bitcoin to, buy MicroStrategy, right? Like, maybe if you have cash in the existing financial system and you want to diversify risk, which we don't suggest here at Simply, maybe buy a little bit, but that's not what we would recommend. But again, it's your money. You could do whatever you want. If you want to buy, what's the latest? I don't even know coins these days. Such a
fart coin.
Fart coin. If you want to buy fart coin with your money, like, so be it. It's your money. We don't suggest it. We suggest Bitcoin only. Put it in self-custody and just, continue on your craft, and eventually your life just gets better and better as time progresses, as number goes up. I'm going to pass it on to Jay. Jay, what's your take here, man? Is it good that Wall Street is changing the kind of the trading? Because it is different. Like, this cycle is different. It's performing differently. And, I've had so many people on the show to talk about this, but essentially the general consensus is that, like, look, you have smart money buying, right? And smart money doesn't want to put the price up, right? They don't want to, unless you're that person that sent $80,000, that was retail for sure, that sent $80,000 to Galaxy and then they just dumped it all at once. But smart money doesn't want to do that. What they want to do is they want to be able to buy Bitcoin without making the price go up. So they do it in a very kind of strategic way, little purchase over here, a little purchase over there, so that no one finds out that they're accumulating as much Bitcoin as they are, right? So the game is changing for better, for worse. I would say I would say this is a chapter in Bitcoin's history. That's what I would leave it up to. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, you're absolutely right. The bigger players who are entering the market have very many avenues. There are multiple exchanges, right? There are multiple exchanges, and you can play off in real time, selling on one, buying on the other, keeping the price constant. There are ways to do this. So, in other words, you can start to buy higher volumes, VWAPing into it, and selling at the same time and buying again. So, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it feels like Bitcoin staying where it is, but actually they're buying it at a cheaper price. So those mechanisms exist. Those are being utilized 100%. So that's just par for the course. The bigger question here is, see, I don't know this morning, but I was looking a couple of days ago. If you look at the top 5 to 7 exchanges, we have less than, I don't know, 2.5 million coins, right? There's just, the liquidity is what it is. And that's not a lot of coins when a big government comes and says, I'm going to buy $800 billion worth of this stuff, right? So that pressure is going to happen, because you can't just create an ETF in isolation. It still has to have some underlying asset around which you're building that value. Now, the reason people are getting into the ETF institutions, they don't know how to custody. If I'm a company, what do? I mean, I'm the CFO. Do I go to my CEO and say, well, I'll put those 12 little words in my little handy dandy over here, and the company's corporation's strategy for keeping value will be that way? What's the structure for it? It's not a trivial problem right now. So I think for the larger companies which are creating the ETFs, which are giving exposure to Bitcoin, which is what treasuries are looking for, whether you're the treasury of a mid-sized company, a Fortune 500 company, a state of Florida, or the country of the United States, if they want to hold X% of your treasury reserve, NVIDIA, they've got what, $20 billion in cash sitting on, maybe let's say more than that, right? Or maybe much more than that. Even if they put like $20 billion into Bitcoin, that's going to move the needle, right? And somebody needs to figure out how all these passwords will say. So buying the ETF is giving the treasury exposure. It's meeting the needs of the shareholders' requirements. At the same time, it's solving a problem. So I think that there is an inherent market for that. And like you said, the options are starting to trade because there is enough liquidity. I can go and do a call option at Bitcoin $200,000 and sell that damn call option for a few bucks and collect my $5,000 in cash flow. Because if in 30 days, if the option price, if it doesn't hit, great, I kept the 5,000 premium and I got my $200,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? If it hits, great, I'll sell the damn thing, I'll keep the 5,000 and I'll rebuy it at 190,000. Okay. Yeah. So I think that the point that you're making, Bitcoin self-custody, this is the people's money. If you are keeping the keys, not your Bitcoin, right? If you're keeping the keys and you store it and it's your value, see, no one can take it away. You can do what you want to do with it, and you can use that stored value without having to give away the keys, unlike you do in a traditional financing system, right? So this is going to change the way we do things. I think the coming in of the bigger entities of Wall Street money is a good thing. It is a validation. And right now, look at it. Out of the 5 million coins that are already mined, we got about some coins still to be mined over the next several years. But a large portion of them are held by retail investors, right? There's a portion which is held by governments and treasury, et cetera, but a large portion is retail. So this is the largest shift, generational wealth that's going to flow in the other direction for the very first time. For the last 1,000 years, money has flowed from the people to the elite. But this is the first time where the people, whether you hold point, this is what we talk about in our clubs. I say, hey, if you're going to be a member of the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, I want you to have at least 0.01 Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, wherever you are, just get some Bitcoin and then hold on to it, because that's going to amplify in value. And then you're going to be able to unleash that value into a series of new products that'll actually create money for you. And I think once the banks realize how to have this shared custody model, where bank doesn't have to have a centralized treasury. It's a decentralized central bank. That's what we are creating, right? And I think new products will innovate, just like the internet, change the way we work, learn, work, and play. The Bitcoin economy, where you can send money anywhere, to any person, anywhere on the planet, any amount. You're not waiting for the bank to open 9 to 5 or 10 to 4 at the banker's hours and waiting in line for some guy to send your goddamn ACH. You know, I can send $1 million to the guy sitting in Phuket right now if I want it from my wallet. And there's nothing the government can do, and nothing Phuket can do, and nothing Thailand can do, and nothing anybody else can do about it. I can send that value peer-to-peer, right? So this peer-to-peer economy is going to become a very powerful force if people continue to engage and use and start participating in this ecosystem. Our entire Bitcoin ecosystem has to build up. We just bought a hotel in El Salvador. It's called the Bitcoin Beach Hotel, right? Bitcoin Ben's Beach Hotel. So we are creating a hotel which is Bitcoin themed. That's just one example, right? We're going to have a big bee in the swimming pool, and we'll have Satoshi's pizzas on the walls as murals, and we'll have some very cool stuff going on. And we'll be opening this hotel, you know, in a couple of months from now. We've already purchased it. But the point is, and our members pool their money and we make investments. We're making investments in real estate. We got a program called Home to Hodl, where we take out the home equity, which is the home prices are at the peak high right now. And once they start, there's more of a probability of going down than going up further. What does that mean? That means your equity, your hard-earned blood, sweat, and tears, your months and months of mortgage payments that you did, you know, pulling out of your income and paying, that's going to decrease. So when the home price goes down, your equity gets hit the most. The bank is still going to keep getting its monthly payment and its interest. Doesn't care. It's your equity that you lose. And people have more than 40, 50, 70% of equity in their homes. What we're doing is we're having them pull out that equity, 6, 7%, and buy Bitcoin with it. The fastest, hardest asset, the fastest growing asset, the most stable asset, the one that can be burned, that can be flooded, that can be taken, that can be chewed up, that can be blown up in a hurricane, right? I live in Florida, so I know all about Hurricane Helene and Milton, okay? I lost my 3 cars in the garage and 2 businesses. So I get it. But this is why I moved 100%. I mean, I'm not at 90%. I'm not at 95. I'm at 100%. All of my money is in Bitcoin.
Oh, man. I love that. I love that. Bart, can we air horn that?
Yeah, listen! That's called motherfucking Bart!
That's true Bitcoiner right there. True Bitcoiner right there. Yeah, I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? Like, Bitcoin is the superior asset. You're holding on to something else. You know, it is losing purchasing power in Bitcoin terms. Again, don't take my word for it. Just use the Federal Reserve's own data to verify what I just said. Look at housing prices compared to Bitcoin. Look at egg prices. Look at anything. The only thing that has outperformed Bitcoin, but in the short term, is NVIDIA. I believe NVIDIA has outperformed it in the short term. And again, NVIDIA is catching the AI boom because no one knew that these language models were even a possibility. Maybe Jay knew, but they came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, you could just talk to this machine, and it talks back to you like a human being. That was gnarly. And it didn't happen. It happened less than 5 years ago, which is the crazy part. So of course, the biggest GPU manufacturer in the world is going to go up in value. That's obvious, right? But is NVIDIA going to outperform Bitcoin for the next 5 years? I highly doubt it. So, again, Max Kaiser is the best quote. Everything goes to zero as it relates to Bitcoin. Once you understand that, you look at the world totally different. You have a very different perspective on the world. And here's the thing. The world hasn't come to this realization yet, which, again, is to your advantage because you're able to buy Bitcoin at $117,000. Because if people came to that realization, if people knew, then you wouldn't have that opportunity. Bitcoin would be like $1 million by now, minimum, right? So anyways, guys, it's going to be an incredible show. We still have the culture segment. We're going to be talking to Jay about Bitcoin Ben World Ventures, what they do, their clubs, the private key bank in El Salvador, the mining pools, We had Ben on Friday, one of our best shows ever, and we're following it up strong on Monday with Jay, and today's show's doing fantastic. 3,000 people watching live. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button. Shout out to the Rumble audience coming in strong as well. Guys, we're going to be right back in just 1 second.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEDigitalTech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBen.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to BitcoinBen.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be talking about all things BitcoinBen.io, and we have the CEO joining us today, Jay, in the house. Can you put the bars, please? I mean, Jay, first of all, it was fantastic to have Ben on the show on Friday, and one of the things that I told him, and I realized this earlier on in my Bitcoin career, because Bitcoin essentially, I dropped out of school and I just went all in on Bitcoin. One of the best decisions I ever made. I'm coming up on a decade in the industry. It's been the only career I've ever had. I kind of worked in real estate a little bit before, but like this has been my career essentially. It's just Bitcoin and building this channel. And one of the things I've learned earlier on in my career is the importance of meat space. So what does that mean? A lot of you guys, and not, and I understand because I was the same way in the beginning, but a lot of people just live on X, right? A lot of people just live on X. A lot of people, they watch us on YouTube. It's fantastic. A lot of people watch us on Rumble. A lot of people listen to the audio. But what I learned earlier on, and shout out to Surfer Jim, because I initially was like, what's the point? I could just see everything. I could just talk to you guys over the internet. Like, why do I need to get on a plane and jump through all these hoops so I can hang out with you guys in person? And Surfer Jim was like, no, Nico, you don't understand. Like, you have to do this. You have to do this. And I reached out to my boy Opti. We didn't know each other. We weren't like close at the time. And I said, Opti, like, I'm going to this Bitcoin conference. I'm getting a room. Can you come with me? And Opti's like, yeah.
No, he literally said, I bought the room, buy your ticket, or I'm not going.
Yeah. So then, this is the first time that me and Opti like meet each other in person. Before that, we didn't know each other. We had no idea who we were, right? You can make a very good argument that Simply Bitcoin would not exist today if it wasn't for meat space, right? So why am I bringing this up? The Bitcoin Ben's clubs are the only meat space Bitcoin place that you can go to basically all the time to meet with other like-minded individuals. And that's the key word there, right? Because we are essentially in this like sea of people that are still on the fiat standard, and because they're on the fiat standard, they don't think like you. They don't think like you. They don't understand the world the way that you do. They don't see the world that you do. They see the world through the lens of someone who's still on fiat. They don't see the world through the lens of someone who's on Bitcoin. So all these clubs that you guys have worldwide essentially allow people to connect together in meet space. And if they have questions about self-custody, you guys can help. If you guys have questions, if you want to do a peer-to-peer transaction, you guys could help. If you guys want to play poker with other Bitcoiners, you guys could help, right? You guys help in a lot of different ways, right? So could you talk a little bit about the importance of the clubs, Jay, from your perspective, what you've seen? Because last time Ben came on the show, all the feedback we were getting was basically like, when are you opening one in Ireland? When are you opening one in Canada? When are you opening one in here? So like everyone was like super interested, because I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I've basically lost all my friends. I haven't lost them. I just don't have anything in common with my friends that aren't Bitcoiners. They don't speak the same language that I do, right? So like, where do you go? Okay, so you go to Bitcoin conferences. Bitcoin conferences are like, they've gotten to the point where they're like one good and big one every month, but still you have to get on a plane, fly halfway across the world. Like there isn't a local community aspect to it as well, which I think is incredibly important. So Jay, I teed it up for you. I don't know if you want to add to that, but from my perspective, that's the value add. That's what I see as special, because again, you get access to all these clubs worldwide, these resorts that you guys are opening up in El Salvador, and you just got to be a member of the club, right?
Yeah. So before I share more about why the clubs are important, let me make a statement. And the statement is as follows. In 5 years from now, if you're not using Bitcoin, then you're working for someone who does. All right? It's as simple as that. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you know. I do care, because we're going to share this information through our clubs. But you got to see this train coming down the tracks, okay? This train is coming down, whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter. This is no longer a subjective issue. This $2 trillion asset is going to 10 trillion. This is a store of value. This is the way the hardest asset is going to be kept in the world of finance, which drives every innovation, every entrepreneurship, and every personal life. So get used to the idea that Bitcoin is here. It is here to stay. And the more quickly you can acquaint yourself with this Bitcoin thing, the better off you will be and your future generations will be in coming years. So having stated that as a ground truth, which is the ground truth off of which I operate these businesses. Now, I'm not a lifelong Bitcoiner like you. Now, back in 2011, 12, I was looking at my old Coinbase account. I bought a bunch of Bitcoin. I think I spent it all on Silk Road, right? But and then Mt. Gox took away some of my coins, and that was the end of it. Lost interest. I ran other companies. I ran affiliate marketing companies. I ran software companies, and then the time came, and God brought me here to Florida, and I met with this fellow called Bitcoin Ben, who was this truck driver who started self-teaching himself about Bitcoin, and it is amazing what he did. He basically took the idea of a sovereign individual and said, we should have our own money. We don't have to rely on the government. Bitcoin is the solution. And way back, he started talking about it. And what he would do would be podcasts from his truck while he was delivering loads. So these are our humble beginnings. It started with the average American, the average person. And his mission in life became, I want to educate as many people as I can with this really smart, shiny thing I found. I want people to know about this. And so he started his first club in Sarasota, where I am right now in the studio. And so long story short, fast forward fairly recently, about 7 months ago, we just happened to connect again, and he said, "Hey Jay, can you come on over? I need somebody to take our clubs to the next level. We need a CEO. Would you consider? And I just felt like all the timing was right to get back for me into digital currency, into Bitcoin, and taking the technology advantage. Everything is, changes with technology. If you have a competitive advantage technology, you can make it. It can grow. And so I really saw a great opportunity here, and we partnered up into taking this company to the next level. So to your point, meetups, that's where we started. The idea was that you would have a physical space where you can physically come in, and especially the older people, or especially the average person who doesn't know how to get onto some site, who doesn't know what an IO means, who doesn't know whether I'm putting my $100 into and whether I'll ever get it back. There are all these scammy sites where you can go and can trade, and suddenly it shows you got 5 times the money, but when you go to take it out, they say, gee, sorry, I don't know you, right? So this stuff has happened. And so the only antidote to that is actually delivering value. That's what our clubs are about. Yes, it's a cultural meeting place. It's a place where you can come and meet fellow Bitcoiners. It's a place where you can come in and see friendly experts. Yes, we have classes every day on internal Bitcoin Ben TV for our members, right? And you can come in and learn. You can learn what a cold wallet is. You can learn what a hot wallet is. How to stay away from scams, and how to not use your history when you're sending money to somebody. Make sure you cut and paste and check the first and 5 digits of the address code. Make sure that if you're sending USDT, it's on the ETH network versus another network. So these are kind of details that they start to learn. At the same time, we have experts who come in and talk. We have musicians who come in and perform. We have events. We have eat outs. We have meetups. We have fun things. We go to the beach together as a family, right? So your problem about, hey, I'm a Bitcoin guy and now I've lost my friends. Well, you just found 1,000 more.
I love that. And it's worldwide. This is worldwide. You guys have locations all over the United States. Opti, could you pull up the website, please? And then the resorts in El Salvador. I when I heard that, I was like, I have to go visit, because I think I've gone to El Salvador twice this year.
Make sure you're on the opening night. Guaranteed.
I will be there opening night. I promise. Let me know the details, and I will be there opening night. Maybe we'll do a show.
Personally inviting you right now.
I am coming. Opti and I, we're gonna do a show from the resorts in El Salvador. I love that. I absolutely love that. So current locations are Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, I believe that's right outside of Boston, Dallas, Texas, Las Vegas, Nevada, St. Louis, and much more coming. Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, if you live in Florida, or Palm Beach. Is that Palm Beach, California?
No, that's Florida.
Okay,
West Palm
Beach.
West Palm. Yeah.
So it's West Palm Beach,
and
Scottsdale.
Palm Beach, we're looking at Indian Wells.
Okay, so it's one in California, and then West Palm Beach in South Florida, and then Michigan, Alabama, and more. So you guys are expanding all over the place. And yeah, this is a great place to build a community. Another thing I'll say too, guys, like what I've noticed as a Bitcoiner is the importance of like knowing, because like what you're gonna start to see is this kind of parallel economy start to play out, right? So what does that mean? That means that, you'll go to one of these clubs and you'll meet someone else who is a dentist, who's a plumber, right? Who, again, does something that could benefit you that you don't do, right? And you could pay that person directly in Bitcoin, right? So you start to create these circular economies, but that's only possible in meat space, right? You can't do that. Like, you can sort of do that over the internet, but I'm telling you, it is not the same. It's not the same as getting to hang out with someone in a physical location. Nothing beats that. Nothing replaces that. And I think that's the value add. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is really, really cool, because I know that, and I'm right across Alligator Alley for me. So it's not a very long drive for me at all. And I know I can go to a place where I'll always find Bitcoiners that I always have something in common with, and I can connect with them and I can talk to them about Bitcoin, and perhaps they have businesses for me. Perhaps they're like, hey, Nico,
we're doing something for businesses too, by the way. We have a corporate membership for businesses. So we actually have co-location of some businesses, even at our, like for example, in our Dallas location, we have a media company that's co-located in our offices, and it's a symbiotic relationship, right? So these businesses are actually benefiting, and we're starting a set of new programs for them where, let's say, you're a small business and you have 10 employees or 20 employees, and they haven't saved enough for their retirement. They don't understand Bitcoin entirely. But because of your corporate membership, you can make a contribution. And every month, we can put Bitcoin directly into their retirement, quote unquote, retirement wallet, right? Automatically. So these are type of benefits that corporations can get. If some of these corporations that are members want to come into our media rooms or use our stage, for an event, they have access to doing that. They can bring their employees. They can have an event. They can use our media room. They can do a little video for an ad for their website. These are capabilities we have, physical capabilities we have, that are available both to private members as well as to the companies that participate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's super cool. And Jay, I appreciate the invite. I can't wait to to visit the resort in El Salvador, and we're going to be doing a Simply Bitcoin live from the resort. Opti and I have been, I don't know how many times now, at least half a dozen times to El Salvador by now. And yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to do it. We Opti and I, we've done some shows facing volcanoes. Like it's gonna be great, guys. We're really looking forward to it. Guys, go to bitcoinben.io to find out more information. They have resorts in El Salvador. They have locations all over the United States. They throw live events. They have music. They have poker nights. If you're interested in mining, they have mining pools. And again, they're opening up the private key bank in El Salvador, which as a Bitcoiner, again, you're going to need some type of banking eventually. So guys, go to bitcoinben.io today to find out more information. I want to thank our guest today, the CEO of Bitcoin Ben World Ventures, Jay. Jay, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I want to shout out everyone in the live stream right now, 3,200 people watching. Smash that like button. Love you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.